أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
رب هذه الدعوة التامة وصلاة قائمة آتي محمدا الوسيلة وفضيلة ثم قام رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا بمحمد النبي رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة دلالة وكل دلالة في النار. Verily all the praise and certainly all of the magnification, all of our dedication, all of our inspiration, it should only be for Allahu Jalla fi Ala. And I publicly, I inwardly, and I outwardly declare and attest and profess that there is nothing, la ma'bud bihaqqin illallahu ta'ala. There is no object, no deity, nothing that deserves to be worshipped that the mind can conjure except for Allahu Jalla fi Ala. And on أللهم, the topic for today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in light of paying homage and devotion to the Most High, we want to talk about al-ilaqa. Al-ilaqa. Connecting to Allahu Jalla fi Ula, ya ikhwan. So when you look at the situation, ya ikhwan, the topic of al-ubudiyyah, it is something that I myself, ya ikhwan, I have to keep going over and over and over and over again. What is a slave servant to Allah Azza wa Jalla? What is that? As we know, the Prophet ﷺ, he had two titles. He was a Nabi, which none of us could be, and anybody who claims that know that they lost their mind. And he was Abdullah. We could be Abdullah. I could be Abdullah. You could be Abdullah. If we understand, ya ikhwan, this homage in devotion to the Most High, Tabarak Ta'ala. Servitude, ya ikhwan, is one to the true Lord. In order to please Allah the Most High, you need to know Allah Azza wa Jalla, ya ikhwan. You need to know, like we said before, His asma'ihi, wa sifatihi, wa dhatihi, wa af'alihi. This you have to know, ya ikhwan. A true abd knows being devoted to Allah means salvation. If you're a true servant of Allah Azza wa Jalla, inshallah ta'ala, you will get salvation, ya ikhwan. In this life, and in the next. It is the path, ya ikhwan, being in a state of devotion and homage to Allah, that will give you purpose in life. I have so many non-Muslim cousins, ya ikhwan. They live their life connected to a bottle, or to a cigarette, or to some drugs, or to some mushrooms, ya ikhwan, trying to plug in trying to connect with some other type of entity to take them out to the stratosphere. This is not the life of the Muslims. Unfortunately, even the Muslims are doing drugs. This is the path of purpose which gives us, ya ikhwan, strength, peace, tranquility, and ya ikhwan, it is something that gives us escape from the dunya, worshiping Allah Ta'ala. To be able to come to the house of Allah and forget your job, forget the bills, forget the stress, and come down, make a nice wudu, put your head on the ground, and say, Ya Allah, I am here to worship you alone. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. My dear brothers, we're talking about the connection. And before I left my house, ya ikhwan, and it's a reminder because sometimes, ya ikhwan, we know the du'as that we're supposed to make, but we forget them. The Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged us to say, Bismillah, la yadurru masmun shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama'i wa huwa sami' al-alim. Ya ikhwan, if you make this dua 3 times, with the name of Allah, with his name, nothing can harm you on the earth or in the heavens, ya ikhwan. And Allah, he is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Ya ikhwan, I cannot tell you how many times where I could see fitna coming at me. And I remember one time I was with my daughter, we were on the streets, and one of my daughters, she's a germaphobe, and there was a homeless, very dirty man coming straight towards our car. Even though we're in the car, she doesn't like germs. So I told her to make this dua, and just before he came to our car, he bounced off like this, and he went around our car after passing 10 different cars. Showing, ya ikhwan, that when you connect to Allah Azza wa Jal, you're going to be protected. So we look at the situation, my dear brothers. We are talking about, ya ikhwan, and this is something that I learned a long time ago from my shaykh. We need to connect to the mudabbir hada kawn kulluh, the owner, the Lord, the master, the controller of all the affairs. He is the Rabbul Alameen. He is the Malik, the master. He is, ya ikhwan, the Razak, the provider if you're poor. He is Al-Khaliq, the creator of kullu shay. MashaAllah can, وَمَن لَمْ يَشَأْ لَمْ يَكُونَ. Whatever Allah wills, will be. And whatever Allah doesn't allow to happen will never ever be. $1 can't miss you, brothers. 1 blade of rice, 1 part of rice, 1 apple, 1 orange, 1 drink, whatever you're supposed to have in your dunya, in your life, you're going to get it. This we have to believe. The question is, brothers, can we afford not to be connected to Rabbul Izzah? Many of us, ya ikhwan, we are connected to our iPhone, high intelligence, our Android, for those who like Androids, higher intelligence. Many of us were trapped in our cellular life, ya ikhwan. Many of us, we love the TV. Oh, mashallah. We're on the computer. We love Google. We love, ya ikhwan, we love Bixby. We love all these AI technologies which they're throwing at us, ya ikhwan, making us stupid people, not smart people. Ya ikhwan, recharging our device. How many of us have left the house and we did not recharge our phone? And an important phone call comes in and we only have 5 minutes left to do this big business deal with this so-called billionaire person who's going to put lots of money in our pocket, and we're not charged up. Also, ya ikhwan, we find, ya ikhwan, that many of us were disconnected and we've logged off. We've logged off from Allah Azza wa Jalla, ya ikhwan. This is not the ghaya, to be connected to what they call high power technology. The ghaya in the goal, ya ikhwan, is for us to be connected to Rabbul Izzah. As you know, my dear brothers, cordless, wireless, soon maybe one day headless, headset, buds, headphones, microphone, Wi-Fi, hotspot, data, remote control, no control, Game Boy, PlayStation, speaking watches, my watch can speak to me, Megatron, Technicolor, Cybertron, Robotech. These were all things that I knew back in the 80s. The Jetsons, that technology, they had an idea what the technology would be back in TV shows back 40, 50 years ago. GPS, cable TV, pagers, digital TV, cell phone tower. There's no cell usage in this area. Oh, we got to drive another 30, 40 kilometers. I've been on the highway where we were in a dead spot. We couldn't communicate anyway. Radar, battery charging. How many times, ya ikhwan, have you tried to film something in your life and the battery died? Tap and pay as you go. You just put your little card down, tap, pay, bing, bing, bang, boom. To the bank, you're connected. Also, ya ikhwan, those, when they came to the masjid, hopefully now you shut off your device. Hopefully you are shut off now. And on top of that, ya ikhwan, satellite technology. Brothers and sisters, in life, sometimes, ya ikhwan, it's not about how much knowledge you have. It's about the connections you have, what is known as al-wasita, connections. Sometimes you get through doors that degrees and pedigrees can't take you. It's who you know or who knows you. Or who knows the guy 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 that can take you to the top guy. The question is, ya ikhwan, do we know Rabbul Izzah? Can we connect with Allah? Do we really know who Rabbul Izzah is and how powerful He is and how much in control of things that He really is? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. All of these jumla mufida, all these beautiful statements that we've learned since we were little kids, we need to go back, unpack it, and understand what it truly means, ya ikhwan. We are dealing in a time, my dear brothers, that this ilaqa or this ittisal, I cannot tell you how many times, brothers, how many times where I was in a state of desperation and no one could help me in the dunya except for Rabbul Izzah. I made a wudu. I tried to empty out my heart. And then the answer came, ya ikhwan. Sometimes I felt that I was going to jail. Sometimes I thought my marriage would end. Sometimes I thought I wouldn't have a job. Sometimes I thought I was going to lose my house. Sometimes I thought I wasn't going to have a car. I made dua to Rabbul Izzah, this ilaqa, this connection to Rabbul Izzah. And I asked Allah to connect me into His infinite power and His infinite mercy. My dear brothers, getting connected to Allah is a really important thing for all of us. When you go anywhere, ya ikhwan, we have been told from the Prophet ﷺ to recite the dua, أعوذ بكلمات الله تامة من شر ما خلق. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I have been stung by a scorpion last night." The Prophet said, "Had you said, I take perfect refuge with the perfect words of Allah from every evil that He created." Ya ikhwan, Allah's name is not on our tongue enough. The book of Allah is not in our hands enough. The modality and the principles and the practices of the manners of the Prophet ﷺ is not in our behavior enough, ya ikhwan, because we are not fully connected to Rabbul Izzah. We need to bring more ilaqa into our life. And as we know, my dear brothers, Allah Ta'ala says, and our purpose of life, and there are some brothers, mashallah, every now and then they tell me I need to go and travel with them to different places for 40 days or 4 months, that I need to put my life in the path of Allah. I told them when I took my shahada in 1991, September the 2nd, after Salatul Dhuhr, I came into this ayah, Kul in salati wa nusaki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Say that my prayer and my sacrificing of the animals, my living and my dying are all for Allah. We are the property of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and your life does not belong to you. You're supposed to be the slave servant. I'm supposed to be the slave servant of Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We've only been created for ibadah. I was with a brother last week before we sit down for Jilsa Istiraha, and he told me that his goal is to be a millionaire. I said, MashaAllah, tabarakallah. As we read the hadith in Riyadh al-Salihin, we know that the poor people will enter into the paradise 500 years before the rich people, even though the rich people, they have their virtues and their merits, brothers. Get your dunya. La tansa nusibaka min ad-dunya. But remember to be Abdullah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. حمد كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. This problem has to be solved, my brothers. How many times have we left our house and we realize that our phones aren't charged or our computers aren't charged? So when we get to the event or we get to we need a backup system to charge or plug to re-plug back in, because the night before we forgot to plug in and recharge. It's a problem. But when we look at the situation, before we go to sleep, the Prophet ﷺ told us to say Bismika Allahumma ahya wa amutu. In another narration, Allahumma bismika amutu wa ahya. With your name, I live and I die. Also, O Allah, in your name, I die and I live. Ya Ikhwan, before we go to sleep, we are logging off. There's no guarantee that we're going to power up after we log off in the night. If Allah allows us to go to sleep and wake up, we have another chance to become Abdullah. Also, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana wa ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Here again, brothers, plug in and recharge. All praise and thanks are due to Allah who gave us life after He gave us death and resurrection, ya Ikhwan. We're going to be resurrected once again. Even if you were burnt to smithereens, as they say, Allah is going to put everything back together and we're all going to stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the last hadith, brothers, talking again about plugging in, recharging. This hadith is in Bukhari. The Prophet went on to say, finally got my spectacles here. Bismika Rabbi wada'tu jambi wabika arfa'uhu fa in amsakta nafsi farhamuha wa in arsaltaha fahfadha bima tahfadhu bihi ibadaka as-salihin. In your name, my Lord, I lie down, and in your name I rise. So if you should take my soul, then have mercy upon it. And if you should return my soul, then protect it in the matter you do so to be from amongst your righteous salihin. A friend of mine died a couple years ago, brothers. He was hit in a car accident in the States. He was in a coma for a few days, and then he died. He didn't get a chance to say Salaam Alaikum to his mom. He didn't get a chance to say Salaam Alaikum to his wife. He didn't get a chance to say Salaam Alaikum to his children. He went out in the street to earn some money. He ended up in a coma, and then that was it. A couple days later, he died, rahmatullahi wasiya. And as one of our friends went to go visit him, as he told me this story, the brother was saying he just spent a couple days before that, they were sitting outside the masjid where they connect to Allah, drinking qahwa, talking about Islam, ya ikhwan. That's the last memory the brother has until he came to the hospital to make dua for the brother. And the brother had plugged in all types of apparatuses in his nose, in his mouth, in his body, trying to take out and to move the blood around, ya ikhwan. This is how he was plugged in before he passed away, rahimahullahu wa rahmatan wasiyah. So ya ikhwan, how are we plugging into Allah Rabbul Izzah? I need to plug into Allah Rabbul Izzah in His book and in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. You need to do that. With that, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim fil alamin innaka hamidun majid. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to help us to plug into His deen. Raditu billahi rabbin wa bil islami deenan wa bi Muhammadin nabiyyan. I am pleased with Allah as my Lord, with Islam as my religion, and as Muhammad sallam as my messenger. Brothers, this needs to be on our tongue every day, because we're finding that people that are born with Islam are not pleased with Allah as their Lord. They're not pleased with Islam as their religion, and they're not pleased with the Prophet ﷺ as their messenger. And as we see, brothers, new people are coming into the ranks of the Muslims. Maybe they will plug in, and we will not be plugged in. It's time for us to plug in. With that, Aqim Islam, rahmakallah. The Sheikh lead. We'll let my brother Abu Hafsa lead.